So our next speaker is Dr. Ekta Gupta. She's going to speak on use of cannabinoids in pain medicine.
I am Dr. Ekta and I'll be speaking on use of cannabinoids in pain medicine. Thank you ISSPCon for giving me this opportunity to be standing among such an august audience. Thank you so much. Before I start, I like to declare that I do not have any conflict of interest. This is not a sponsored talk by any means. All pictures and infographics have been taken from reliable medical resources to the best of my knowledge. And if there is an unpublished patient related detail, then I have the consent for it to present it. I begin with the smallest thing, that is, what are cannabinoids? This is the cannabis plant or the aka hemp plant, and chemical compounds which are derived from this plant are essentially known as cannabinoids. These plant based cannabinoids were the first one to be discovered. They are the phytocannabinoids, but they triggered the discovery of existing endocannabinoids in our body, the naturally existing cannabinoids. And then they triggered the discovery of some synthetic cannabinoids. So this is how we have a range of cannabinoids which are acting more or less on the endocannabinoid system or endocannabinoid receptors in the body. All of them are hundreds of phytocannabinoids have been discovered and have been studied. The two of them which we need to know and are the most studied are the CBD and the THC. And the most important difference between the two, of course, is THC is a psychoactive compound. However, does not display psychoactive properties. If we have to talk about mechanism of action, our body contains endocannabinoids which function through a system of receptors, CB1 and CB2. This CB1 receptor is also a G protein coupled receptor like lot of other receptors in the body and found in the major brain areas like amygdala and hippocampus. These cannabinoids, they are not stopping pain transmission, but they are altering the pain transmission by increasing the amount of endocannabinoids within the body. And these are known to help in analgesia. So they modulate the pain responses rather than inhibiting the pain transmission. This is how the THC acts. It is an agonist at the CB1 and the CB2 receptor. At the CB2 receptor, it demonstrates anti-inflammatory activity which contributes to pain management. CB2 does not activate CB1, CB2 receptors, but it's a complex molecule, has lot of related activities. Alone, it may not be that effective, but in combination with THC, it synergizes the analgesic potential in numerous ways, more so by its anti-inflammatory activity. That's actually why we need both of them together in most compounds which demonstrate clinical utility, because its anti-inflammatory effect helps to maintain the analgesia. And the unwanted effect of THC, which we are afraid of, if we could use THC in huge proportions, we cannot, because it is psychoactively, it shows psychoactive properties. So there is a potential of the misuse of the drug. Hence, we cannot use THC alone. That's why we need CBD along with it in most compounds. It is available in various proportions. We have to select according to the need and according to the rules and regulations, the legal system functioning. Just to tell, this is the cannabis plant. The flower and the bud, these are the ones which have high THC concentration. That is the one that is the regulated substance. But we in India are only permitted to mostly use products from leaves, which do not have a high concentration of THC. And these are the extracts which are commercially available in the market. Various cannabis pharmaceuticals have been introduced. Numerous indications are there. Pain is one of them. Some neurological diseases like amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, multiple sclerosis, PTSD, anxiety, lots of indications it has been used for. Let's talk of cannabinoids per se in pain. If we talk of acute pain, that's the simplest. On the basis of available RCTs, they have no role in management of post-operative pain, that is acute pain. Let's come to chronic pain. If I talk of the recent studies, this is a relatively older meta-analysis from 2018. There is limited evidence for effectiveness, despite it is being done in 10,000 patients. So it has a high NNT comparable to all other agents which are available for neuropathic pain treatment. If we move forward to 2021, BMJ published that it has small to very small improvement in pain relief, physical functioning, and sleep quality. In 2023, they published now, after 101 observational and RCTs, that cannabis-based medicines are effective in people in a certain group, which they said were multiple sclerosis, chronic pain, and palliative medicine. Similarly, for another study, another meta-analysis might be effective. I just have highlighted them to show that the evidence, despite so much data available, there is no conclusive evidence. It is at best low to moderate. In this as well, in this Cochrane review, it's third-line therapy for chronic neuropathic pain. Then again, for the treatment of neuropathic pain, it says that a THC CBD combination should be used, or THC alone shows very good effect. But THC alone has ill effects which are difficult and which are regulated. So its use is not permitted here. Again, they say that oromucosal THC is more effective than plain CBD. Back pain also, there are studies which say that there is some evidence of benefit. However, it's a very low level of evidence. Similarly, for migraine, low level of evidence. If I talk of the available cannabinoid products in the market, in the international market, the most common one available is a 1:1 combination of THC and CBD, which is a oromucosal spray, commonly available with the name of Sativex. And there are others which are only THC, like high concentration of THC, like Nabilon and Dronabinol, but they are not available in India. In Indian market, after the NDPS Act, we are allowed to use only the seeds or the leaf extract from cannabis, and flowers and resin products are not allowed. That too only from a certain species of cannabis, that is the Cannabis sativus, because the other species has high concentration of THC. So extraction from that plant is not allowed, it's regulated. And it's only regulation, prescription-based medical formulations, even though all products are mostly available online, and there are outlets in Delhi, at least I know of 3 outlets in Delhi for some companies, but they always ask for a prescription from the doctor. The company has decided, the company that I know of, that one prescription is valid for 3 months. So that's how but they do not sell even online without the prescription. We'll skip this, I'll talk about it later. So this review, there is a journal by the name of Cannabis Cannabinoids. I did not know about it, and I was surprised that even a journal is there which only talks about cannabinoids. I just copied its conclusion that it helps suppress chronic pain by interacting with receptors. If we talk of how to prescribe, this is a beautiful article in the European Journal of Internal Medicine, which gives a small guideline how to start prescribing it. The crux of the guideline is that start low and go slow, and add first CBD in increasing amounts, and if it is not sufficient, then add THC to it. If I talk of the available formulations, it is available as capsule form, it is available in the oil form, which is put as tincture, in the sublingual, or in the vaporized form or smoking form, which is not at least not legal here. And there is topical preparation. And this is what I was talking of, that it says that you start low, start with 5 milligram of CBD only, titrate it upwards within a gap of 2 to 3 days. And if the desired effect is not achieved, then add the more difficult or the more tricky compound, that is the THC. At a dose of 40 milligram per day of THC, it is, the effect should have come. It is enough, because beyond it, the potential for long-term problems associated with THC in the form of dependence or in the form of use disorders is high. So this is the dose limit which is generally quoted. Some studies say 30 milligram per day, some say 40 milligram per day. Contraindications and precautions must be kept in mind before prescribing. In general, under 25 years of age should not be prescribed. Of course, hypersensitivity and pregnant women should not be using this, and any allergies should not be using this. In the medical contraindications, if the patient is suffering from a psychotic disorder like schizophrenia, then it should not be prescribed. These have a tendency to increase them. And any history of any substance use disorder, be it opioid or be it cannabis, then severe cardiovascular disease is also a relative contraindication. Significant hepatic or renal impairment is also a relative contraindication. Adverse effects, they are mostly minor adverse effects if we talk of short term, like dizziness, somnolence, some tachycardia and postural hypotension, dry mouth has been seen. If we talk, this is the one that we are always afraid of, the long-term consequence of cannabis. But as you can see, the dependence risk with cannabis is as good as opioids, in fact, lower than alcohol and nicotine. So it has a tendency, it can lead to long-term disuse. However, the dependence risk is lesser than agents that we already use. I like to share some personal experience of mine. Basically, these were out-of-the-box results. These are not quoted, but I didn't have much option, so I ended up using it. For example, this 82-year-old female, she had an osteoporotic fracture of T12. She was in severe pain. I maxed out on tramadol. She was not ready to get any intervention or even minimally invasive anything. Out of no option, I used a 2:1 combination of cannabis, and she's still using it. It's been 3 months post her fracture, and it's her second bottle, and she's good with it. She didn't need anything. It helped me. Then this is another one where an end-of-life care patient, which I was managing at home, as in from home calls, she was on a 50 microgram per hour fentanyl patch, but still she complained of pain. However, adding a small dose of tincture of cannabis helped me leave those phone calls recurrently ki abhi bhi pain hai, abhi bhi pain hai. So it helped. A patient of CA prostate who was from Cameroon had to go back to his country. So I was requested if we can convert him back to all orals. So I had to stop all injectables. He went under radiotherapy for his metastasis. In the meanwhile, I moved him to cannabis oral prep, and we could send him back home with the prep. So it helped me. I'm not sure about the topical preparation though, but I have used in some post-TKR knee pains. And though I used them with topical lignocaine, but it helped me. I'll skip this one. This is another one. This patient, I moved to cannabis. He only had one thing to talk to me. Doctor, please allow me to drive. I didn't know what are the driving recommendations. I had to dig deeper because similar patient, a French patient, also was driving. He does not even have an option of having a driver or anything. For him, I requested his son, please don't let him drive, have a driver. So I figured out that after an inhalation of cannabinoid, it is 4 hours you should not drive. After an oral ingestion, you should not drive for 6 hours. So if the patient has to drive and has to be independent, then probably this could help. I'm coming to my conclusion slide. Plants have a long history in pain management, and 25% of modern pharmaceuticals could be coming from plants. I just want to say that cannabinoids in chronic pain, plausibility for therapeutic value at the right dose, for the right indication, in the right patient. And it's important to consider dose, route, and the content. If you do plan to use it, start low, go slow, use a verifiable source with a credible third-party testing, and minimize the harm by we are not eligible for smoking or vaping both. And the strongest support in pain relief comes from chronic neuropathic pain, multiple sclerosis related spasticity, brachial plexus injury, cancer chemotherapy induced nausea, vomiting, and HIV related neuropathy. The results for fibromyalgia, osteoarthritis, and MSK pain are inconsistent. They are definitely safer than opioids in terms of respiratory depression. And I must say that being close to $100 billion industry back in US and Canada, it is going to come in India too in a big, big way. We must be prepared with details of it, because where the moolah is, where the dollar is, there things are going to run. So it will come to us too, and we must know the details therefore. To sum it up, current evidence shows that cannabinoids have a limited but measurable role in chronic pain therapy. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.